When The
Is it a
Sound of Music was
soundstage?
released
Is
in
this real?
Are you
1965,
kidding? That's the
no one could have imagined
real.
the impact it would have on the world. It wasn't just another musical. It was a film that touched hearts, inspired generations, and became one of the most beloved movies in history. From the opening scene of Julie Andrews twirling on the green hills of Austria, audiences were captivated. The beauty of the landscape, the charm of the songs, and the warmth of the story made it unforgettable. But behind those perfect scenes was a world of challenges, unexpected problems, and even hilarious mistakes that still appear in the final version of the movie. The question that surprises many fans is, how could such a flawless film be filled with so many real-life bloopers? To find out, we must take a closer look behind the camera, where weather, casting chaos, and creative struggles all played their part in shaping The Sound of Music into the classic we know today. At first, even the people behind the movie weren't sure it would succeed. The story was based on the story of the Trapp family singers, written by Maria von Trapp herself in 1949. It told the real-life tale of a young woman who left a convent to care for 7 children and fell in love with their widowed father, Captain Georg von Trapp. When the film was released, some critics dismissed it as too sweet or too sentimental. But audiences disagreed completely. Within just 4 weeks, The Sound of Music became the top movie in theaters. By the end of 1966, it had even beaten Gone with the Wind to become the highest-grossing film of all time. It held that record for 5 years and broke attendance records in nearly 30 countries. More than 283 million people bought tickets worldwide. The movie made $286 million in the 1960s, an amount that would equal billions today. Despite its polished image, making it was anything but easy. Between bad weather, scheduling issues, and actors unsure about their roles, the road to success was rocky from start to finish. When it came to choosing who would play Maria, there was only one name that writer Ernest Lehman truly believed in: Julie Andrews. At that time, Julie wasn't yet the superstar we know her as today. In fact, she had just finished filming Mary Poppins and another small movie, but neither had been released. Some Hollywood producers even thought she wasn't photogenic enough for big-screen success. But director Robert Wise saw early footage of her as Mary Poppins and was blown away. He immediately told the studio, "Sign this girl before someone else does." That decision changed movie history forever. Still, Andrews wasn't the only name considered. Other famous actresses like Doris Day, Grace Kelly, and Shirley Jones were also discussed for the role. Once Andrews was chosen, she brought her unique warmth and humor to Maria. She even questioned whether the film might become too sugary and wanted to find balance between sweetness and sincerity. Her instincts were right, and the film ended up being heartfelt rather than overly sentimental. Even so, Julie was paid just $225,000 for the role and didn't receive any share of the profits, something that would later surprise fans, given how iconic her performance became. While Julie Andrews embraced her role, Christopher Plummer, who played Captain Von Trapp, wasn't as eager. He actually turned the role down several times, saying the character felt too stiff and one-dimensional. Plummer wanted the captain to have more depth, a man torn between duty and love. He even wrote a personal letter to the writer, asking for changes to make the character more emotional and realistic. The director agreed, and together they added small moments of humor, sadness, and tenderness that made the captain far more human. Many other famous names were also considered for the role, including Sean Connery and Richard Burton, but none felt quite right. Meanwhile, casting the children was equally challenging. Over 200 children auditioned, and some big names like Mia Farrow even tried out for the part of Liesel. Eventually, the team found the perfect mix of young actors who brought energy and innocence to their roles. But even after casting was complete, the challenges continued. The weather in Austria was harsh, production was constantly delayed, and small on-set problems often turned into full-blown disasters. One of the hardest parts of filming The Sound of Music was the unpredictable Austrian weather. The opening scene, where Maria sings "The hills are alive with the sound of music," looks like a peaceful spring morning. In reality, it was freezing, windy, and miserable. Director Robert Wise later shared that it took several days to capture that one perfect shot. The helicopter used to film Julie Andrews caused strong downdrafts, knocking her to the ground between takes. Julie herself joked in interviews that every time the helicopter passed, it threw her into the mud and grass. "I was spitting dirt and hay after every take," she said with a laugh. The production also had to deal with constant rain, which ruined many outdoor scenes. Roads became so muddy that vehicles couldn't reach certain filming areas, and crew members had to haul equipment up the mountains using ox carts. Even worse, a local farmer nearly ruined one of the most famous scenes by cutting his grass before filming began, despite being asked not to. The field had to be recreated to maintain the look of tall, uncut grass that became part of the film's magical landscape. While the movie is filled with joyful scenes, not all moments on set were safe or fun. One of the most dangerous incidents happened during the famous lake scene, when Maria and the children fall out of the boat. The youngest child, Kim Carath, who played Gretel, couldn't swim. Julie Andrews was supposed to fall forward into the water so she could quickly reach her, but during filming she fell backward by accident. The crew rushed in to save the little girl, and another child actor, Heather Menzies, ended up carrying her to safety. That real rescue can actually be seen in the final cut of the movie. Another small but charming secret is that the real Maria von Trapp appears briefly in the film. She can be seen walking behind Julie Andrews in the scene where Maria leaves the Abbey singing "I Have Confidence." She appears with her daughter and granddaughter, a lovely tribute to the real-life inspiration behind the story. But not every accident had a happy ending. During the 16 going on 17 scene, Charmian Carr, who played Liesel, slipped on the wet floor of the gazebo and fell through a glass window, injuring her ankle. She finished filming with her foot bandaged and covered in makeup. Despite all the setbacks, the cast stayed strong and determined to complete what would soon become a masterpiece. Even though the film looks perfect on screen, sharp-eyed viewers have spotted several mistakes that slip past editors. One famous blooper occurs when the Von Trapp family hides behind tombstones at the Abbey. The tombstones are actually flat slabs pressed against a wall, making it physically impossible for anyone to hide behind them. In another scene, Marta mouths the words, "feels so bad," even though she's not supposed to be singing, revealing that she got caught up in the excitement. There's also a moment during Do Re Mi when one child keeps singing even after the music stops, leaving his mouth hanging open awkwardly. Technical mistakes also appear. In one scene, the family's car uses Michelin X radial tires, which didn't exist in 1938. Other small continuity errors include disappearing props, vanishing drapes, and sudden changes in hairstyle between shots. For example, Nicholas Hammond, who played Friedrich, started filming with reddish hair, but the studio later bleached it blonde. Because the film was shot out of sequence, his hair color keeps changing throughout the movie. These mistakes might sound small, but they remind us that even the most legendary films are still made by humans, and sometimes, those imperfections make the story even more endearing. Despite every blooper, broken prop, and weather disaster, The Sound of Music became a timeless masterpiece. Its success didn't just come from its music or scenery, it came from its heart. Julie Andrews' pure sincerity, Christopher Plummer's layered performance, and the children's joyful energy created something that still feels magical decades later. The songs like Edelweiss, My Favorite Things, and Do Re Mi continue to inspire generations. Schools, choirs, and fans around the world still sing them today. Even the film's mistakes have become part of its charm. Fans love spotting the bloopers and learning about the real-life stories behind them. What makes The Sound of Music so special is not its perfection, but its humanity. It shows that beauty can come from struggle, that art often grows out of chaos, and that even when things don't go as planned, something truly wonderful can happen. More than 50 years later, the movie still feels fresh, comforting, and full of life. And maybe that's the real magic. The hills are indeed alive, not just with music, but with memories that never fade. When we look back at all the bloopers and behind-the-scenes chaos, it's easy to laugh, but it's also inspiring. Each mistake tells us something about filmmaking in the 1960s. There were no digital effects, no computer corrections, and no easy way to fix errors. Everything had to be done by hand, by camera, and by heart. After The Sound of Music was released, the lives of everyone involved changed forever. Julie Andrews became an international superstar, loved by audiences across the world. Her image as the cheerful, kind-hearted Maria became part of movie history. But the success came with its own challenges. Andrews later admitted that the film's huge popularity created a shadow over her career. Every new project she did was compared to The Sound of Music. No matter how successful her later films were, people always remembered her first as Maria, the singing nun who brought love and laughter into the Von Trapp home. For Christopher Plummer, the situation was the opposite. Although he gave an outstanding performance as Captain Von Trapp, he often said he didn't like how sweet the movie felt. He jokingly referred to it as the sound of mucus, saying it was too sentimental for his taste. Yet over the years, he came to appreciate what the film meant to people, calling it a beautiful piece of work and a symbol of goodness. The other cast members, especially the children, became celebrities overnight. Fans sent them letters from around the world, and even years later, people would recognize them as the Von Trapp kids. For some, That fame was thrilling. For others, it made it hard to live normal lives again. While the movie was based on a true story, the real Von Trapp family's life was quite different from what audiences saw on screen. Maria Von Trapp, the real woman behind the character, was not as cheerful or carefree as Julie Andrews' version. She was strong, determined, and deeply religious, with a serious personality. She often said that Hollywood made her look too gentle compared to who she really was. The real Captain Georg von Trapp was also portrayed differently. In the movie, he seemed strict and distant, but in reality, he was kind and loving. His children adored him and described him as a warm father who enjoyed singing with them. In fact, the Von Trapp family sang together long before Maria came into their lives. She helped organize their singing more formally, but the idea didn't begin with her. Another major difference was how the family escaped Austria. In the movie, they flee across the Alps on foot, singing "Climb Every Mountain." In truth, they simply took a train to Italy, carrying only a few belongings. The drama of climbing mountains was added for cinematic effect. Still, the real Maria Von Trapp loved the film and praised Julie Andrews for her performance. She said, "It's not accurate, but it's beautiful." The magic of The Sound of Music didn't happen by accident. It was carefully crafted by hundreds of hardworking crew members. Every costume, song, and location was chosen with care. Costume designer Dorothy Jeekins created over 400 outfits for the film, including handmade Austrian-style dresses. Many of the scenes were shot in real locations, such as Nonnberg Abbey, Mirabell Gardens, and the city of Salzburg. But some of the most famous locations, like the gazebo for 16 Going on 17, were actually built on a Hollywood soundstage. The filmmakers had to blend the real beauty of Austria with the controlled environment of studio filming. That balance gave the movie its unique visual style, real, yet magical. The music also played a massive role in shaping its success. Composers Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein II had already passed away before the film's release. But their songs lived on through this movie. Tunes like Do Re Mi, My Favorite Things, and Edelweiss became global hits. Even today, those songs are sung by children and adults around the world. The soundtrack album sold more than 20 million copies, making it one of the best-selling movie soundtracks of all time. Although audiences adored The Sound of Music, many critics were harsh when it first came out. Some major newspapers called it too sweet, old-fashioned, or even unrealistic. The New York Times described it as a sugar-coated fairy tale. But while critics complained, ordinary people kept filling theaters. The movie stayed in cinemas for more than a year in some countries, breaking box office records everywhere. In England, it ran for 4.5 years straight in one theater, something almost no movie has ever done. Even the actors were surprised. Julie Andrews later said, "We had no idea people would love it this much." Over time, critics changed their minds too. As the years passed, they began to see that The Sound of Music wasn't just a musical. It was a story of courage, family, and hope during one of history's darkest times. In 1966, the film won 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. Today, it's ranked among the greatest movies ever made, preserved in the U.S. Library of Congress for its cultural importance. What began as a movie some critics mocked ended up as a timeless masterpiece that continues to inspire millions. What made The Sound of Music so powerful wasn't just the story, it was the real connection between the cast. During filming, Julie Andrews became like a real mother figure to the child actors. She played with them, helped them rehearse, and made them feel safe during difficult scenes. In interviews, the children often said they saw her as just like Maria. Christopher Plummer, who at first kept his